So Hayden's hands are not as sexy as Chrissy's, but yeah, that, did you see that thumb? That's been in somebody's butthole. So
multiple times.
Yes, multiple times.
Including my own.
Yes. So this is Andy's 12. It's oversized on this frame. You can get those at Lord of Base, and we're just waiting on his gasket to ship this out, but he wanted the specs, so let's do the specs. That was easy. There you go, Andy. That is with the 3 HP Slim, which is an aluminum coil that, like at the time when I had it made, this was years ago, sometimes we would just, like, we had so many of the 3 HP motors that we got from the Rockford buyout, I think over 100. And so we ended up getting coils made. It was great because when we bought stuff from Tilo before the bankruptcy, he just sold me like a nice fat pallet of stuff for like $1,500, $2,000 or whatever it was. And what was great was he included the original boxes from Precision Econowine. And so then I just called Precision Econowine, like, you know, 2 or 3 months later, and they had, of course, TC Sounds had stiffed Precision Econowine on a bunch of money, and so they had a bunch of coils they wanted to get rid of. I was like, yeah, I'll buy them, and so I was able to buy a lot of those. And then some of the gaps that we would run into, I liked the coil height, which is 60 millimeter, but they were a little too chubby, especially at the time. It was like the OptiDrive from Lanzar, which also used the TI frame, but it was a thinner gap. That's what we used this on. And then later I developed the Slim Jim, which is a copper version that has a little more heft to it and is better handling heat. So this one, again, I just built this one for to compete with the what do you call it, W7. So it's a little SPL, as you can see there, with the 37 hertz. I think after break-in, I did break it in for a little bit. It just doesn't quite have the heft, and so I think I want to build it next version with the what do you call it, copper coil. And I'm also working on another version, the HD version, which has a bigger gap, and it uses the original 3 HP coil, which again is aluminum, but it uses a bigger gauge wire, so the outer diameter of the coil ends up being a little bit greater. And that gap, this gap here is 82.5 millimeter. And the HD gap is 85.5. And it was kind of funny. I thought that was pretty big, but when I was measuring the gaps for the Phi, that was even bigger. I think it's 86.5, which is even bigger, more floppy butthole, more sloppy. And so I got to put this one together, and I just want to measure it again to make sure that I got that correct. Because we had ended up making a, here I'll show you this one, this coil. This is a bifiliar 8-layer flat wound aluminum. This one's dual half ohm, and we call it the Refi because it was fit. I made it a series of them. It was a dual 2, dual 1, and then dual half to retrofit a lot of the RE audio model woofers that we were going through, like the SX and the SE and things like that, and then also some Phi. So we called it RE Phi, so Refi. Because Scott had sold his half of RE and then went and started Phi. But and of course, you know, why would you redesign something that's already pretty badass? And that's what Scott did at Phi. So anyways, that was called the Refi, and I still got some of those left, and I got to use them up. And so we made a special gap for that. I'm going to let Andy decide if he still wants this, or I can build something different. I have, I think, 1 or 2 more of these frames, and of course several of these motors. If he wants something a little more sound quality, meaning it can play lower, like down to about 30, 33 hertz, 32 hertz. That might be better. I'm going to break it in over the weekend to see if it will change. If it does break in a little bit more, this FS is going to drop, and then this VAS is going to grow. So right now it's at only 0.98 cubic feet in order to reach 37 hertz. See how the relationship? So if this gets floppier, looser, this is going to grow. See how that works? And then typically your QTS, this one is only what, 2? It's a 2 QTS, which sounds a lot, but look, that's what it is. It's not very peaky at all. See, the other one is super peaky, and that's why you want to put them in a sealed box, because you got to deal with that peak. So this one is not peaky at all. A high QTS in this reference is a QTS of 2. That's a total Q. That's QMS and the electrical Q of 2. You go, oh, that's too much. It's not. It's fucking badass. So, but anyways, there's the specs. I'm using Woofer Tester 3. Somebody asked me about that. It's basically DATS, but for Windows XP. And then I'm running a old Duron 900. And then we rigged up a little scroll cage fan on the CPU. Works fine. Works good enough. But that's what we're using right now until I can fix something else. It was just easier to do this than do a tablet and do an emulator and all this other shit. So anyways, I love you guys. I'll talk to you later.